you're going to maybe get into the rest of the cat, I hope. Let's say you get into the arms. When you get into the arms. Actually, I want you to start on the back, actually. Okay, that's technically what we're supposed to be doing. Okay. All right. Well, when you look at your cat, this is all going to be just connective tissue. You're not going to see anything. But because you're going to have a computer here and you're going to have the map of what to look at, you start to see the lines. And you start taking the connective tissue off. And then you start seeing that a muscle start to appear, which would be this when you separate. This is the clavodeltoid. And you see the acromiodeltoid and the spinodeltoid. Those are the three divisions of the deltoid: clavodeltoid, acromiodeltoid, spinodeltoid. And as you start working in this area, you see that the traps also, this separates. This is the spinotrapezius. See that? I want another forceps, maybe. Maybe give me a forceps out of there. Spinotrapezius, acromiotrapezius, clavotrapezius. So clavodeltoid, acromiodeltoid, spinodeltoid, clavotrap, acromiotrap, spinotrap. And then once I separate this, I'll make you pull on muscle and you see the separation. You see that this starts to separate. This is the long head of the triceps. This is the lateral head of the triceps. But tri means three. So you're going to cut the insertion and peel it back. And then you see the medial head of the triceps. Medial head of the triceps. And there's a muscle here called the anconeus, which sometimes is called the fourth head of the triceps. You can see why they don't like to call it that, right? Fourth head of the triceps. And then as you start to separate this, you see there's a muscle here. It's called the brachioradialis, which rests on the brachialis. You always start proximally and work distally. So once this is all separated, you can pin things back. Then you start doing the forearm. And these all separate. Brachioradialis. This is extensor carpi radialis longus, which separates from the extensor carpi radialis brevis. And then this one is extensor digitorum communis because it's a bipinnate muscle. It has a tendon in common, looks like a feather. Extensor digitorum lateralis, it's a unipinnate muscle. It has a tendon on the side, and extensor carpi ulnaris. And then you turn the cat around to do the flexors. This is the latissimus dorsi, and once that's all separated, I had the student cut the latissimus dorsi here to reflect it. Remember, you guys saw the serratus muscles dorsalis and ventralis. Then you can also see this. You see this muscle here. This is the teres major. And this is the spine of the scapula, right here, spine. They should have opened this up. Spine, see, this is called the spinodeltoid for that reason. The spine runs like this. So this is the supraspinatus, this is the infraspinatus, and there's the teres major. And then we come down here and you'll see they didn't do this side, so this is what it's going to look like without dissection. But once you pull and start to, if I had scissors, start to carefully remove this, you start to see that there's lines of separation here. This is the caudofemoralis, gluteus maximus, gluteus medius. And this is the tensor fasciolate, tensor fasciolate. And then this is covering this, and you pull on it, and you start to separate. As you pull on it, you can see connective tissue, and you pull it aside, and then you slowly pin it back like this. Jeez. Biceps femoris. And there'll be tons of fat in here, and you clean the fat off, and then you see carefully, you see this little muscle here is called the tenuissimus. It has the same action word insertion as the biceps femoris, but it's very tenuous, very thin. It looks like a nerve, but it's a muscle. This sciatic nerve here. And then you see the semitendinosus and the semimembranosus and the adductor femoris. This is cut here, but I don't want you to cut it until you look at the other side. So when this is all clean, you identify these muscles, then you come down here and you cut the calcaneal tendon, and you elevate, you slowly clean these muscles out, the fat, and then you see that there's the medial head of the gastroc, the lateral head of the gastroc, and notice how it's fused to a really big plantaris. Some people will separate, some people don't. And this is the soleus. And then these muscles will all be covered with fascia. Right now it seems like it's pretty easy, but you know, I did both sides. So right now you won't see any of that. It's all covered with connective tissue, but if you carefully cut away the connective tissue, then you can begin to see there's a line here. Here's the tibialis anterior, the extensor digitorum tibialis anterior, extensor digitorum longus, the peroneus longus, the peroneus tertius, and then on the bone here, not to be dissected, because it's right on the bone, is a peroneus brevis. And then, you know, you do both sides. If you do both sides, you have a greater chance of me using the test on an exam. So if you want your cat, which you know your cat better than anybody does, hopefully, you do both sides. And so now you have all this covered up. It would be a mistake to look at this and then do this cut when nothing has been separated, because then as you try to separate it when the muscles cut, things tear. So you get your probe underneath and separate this muscle until you can run a probe underneath it, and then you cut it and you reflect it, because this is the sartorius. What does sartorius mean? It's tailor.
Longest muscle.
In humans, yeah. Sartorius BIG. And then these are all together. You can't see the separation, but you know there should be quads there. So you try to find the separation between this, and this is not going to be cut obviously, and this, and then you separate the vastus medialis from the vastus lateralis from the rectus femoris. And then you take a probe and get underneath the rectus femoris, cut it, and then you lift the rectus femoris up to see the vastus intermedius. So those are quads. Vastus medialis, vastus lateralis, rectus femoris, vastus intermedius. This would still be connected. But you can always, if you want to ask what this muscle does when it gets short, just pull on it. See, what is that action? What is that? Extension of what? Taxton line? Tibia. And then some people learn the quads from anteriorly, but on a test I might be wanting to show this. But then a person would have cut the vastus lateralis and reflected it, like I might do, and then you can see the vastus intermedius from the lateral view. This is vastus lateralis, vastus medialis, rectus femoris, vastus intermedius. Look at the vastus intermedius, a lot more type blank fibers. It's darker meat, right? Type what? Type 1 fibers. And then you do that on both sides, and then I guess I didn't show you the arms on this, right? Did we do this? I think we did this, right? No, maybe we didn't. Because I started the other side, that's right. So this will all be nice and covered up. And then when you separate, you see that there's a trapezius spinal trap, acromial trap, clavicle trap. You don't go deep yet. You do the superficial muscle. You see the levator scapulae, and the clavodeltoid, acromiodeltoid, spinal deltoid. When you get your cat, this just looks like a bunch of white. You don't see the separation, but you come to this cat and you see where the lines are. You look at the CD, you see where the lines are, and that's where you start pulling to see the lines, and you start dissecting. When you separate the triceps lateral head from the long head, and you cut the lateral head and reflect it, and you can see the medial head of the triceps. It seems like I did this. Anyway, that's the anconeus, fourth head of the triceps and long head. And this is the brachioradialis and the brachialis. And then for the forearm, brachioradialis, this is extensor carpi radialis longus, extensor carpi radialis brevis, communis, lateralis, and extensor carpi ulnaris. And then you turn it from this side and you do the flexors. So this cat will be left out for you, but for instance, you might say, well, let me see this muscle. I'm going to cut it in half. No, if you cut this one in half and reflect it, the attachment for this is very minimal. It's going to be torn. So this one is best cut as an insertion cut, and you go like this. Whereas this one is best cut as a mid-belly cut. These aren't cut at all. The latissimus dorsi, once it's all separated, then you cut it near the insertion so we can reflect it, and show the teres major and infraspinatus and all that stuff. This cat's very nice. It's very nice. I love this cat. It's very nice. Oh yeah, and then so once you do the superficial section, then this is the clavicle trapezius. Well, the traps originate from the spine. You know, spine. This one was cut to go like this. This one's still attached to the spine. So you have to get a pair of scalpel, and then cut along here and cut along here so you can reflect the clavicle trapezius. And then when you put the elbows of the cat together, then you can see the rhomboids. And they'll require dissection too. This rhomboidus capitis, rhomboidus cervicus, this is the subscapularis, this is the splenius, and then you have the rhomboid minor, these are the minors, and then the rest of these are major. And it may very well be that on a test, when we're walking around, you're taking the test, you know, I'll have, you know, give me some of these here, these things. You know, I have a cat, I want to try to maximize the exposures. And so if you learn the cat just as you have it with nothing exposed, then you get to a test and you see one that's all, you know, opened up like this, you're gonna freak out. Give me some more of those pins. I might, anywhere there's pins over there. I think a well-dissected cat is one that you could just take anything and just push it back like this, you know, like that. And so hopefully you guys will have cats that are even better than this one, so that I can come by on the day to test, and just out of the blue, you'll be sitting there working, you know, do like a spontaneous question. I might say, name. What are you gonna say if that happens? Well, you don't know. You don't know the names of the muscles yet. But let's see if your cat can look that good. If your cat looks like that looks that good, you will receive a major award. You will. I know I've been kidding along, but this time you will receive a major award. 2 points. No, it'll just be more points on the practical, because to get to that point, you really have to know it. So that'll be your major award. Doing well will be your major award. You can always tell who's going to do crappy. You look at their cat, and if it looks like roadkill, no, not so much. Okay. Ready, go.